What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Virtual Railroader Academy. As always, I'm your host, Professor Casey, and we're here. We're back on the main AM&W save. We're not doing logs tonight, surprisingly, though we've very much been enjoying playing Logging Railroad Simulator. And we're here tonight with a special guest. It's been a long time in the making of getting our schedules to sync up. So welcome. He's author of, and I want to make sure I get the title of the book correct, Guide to Signals Interlockings. He most famous for his Onondaga cutoff Conrail layout. Welcome, Dave Abeles, to the chat tonight.
It's a pleasure to be here, Casey. Thank you for the invitation and the persistence of getting together.
I have heard so many wonderful things from our friends here playing the game and often board meetings. And I've been told for a while that you were the guy to talk to about what the hell this funny green board with all these switches on it does, and how all that works, and why it's the coolest thing in model railroading and railroading. Yeah.
It is a remarkable invention that changed the way industry works. It changed the way the railroad interacts, not just with itself but with the public. It really changed the game.
It's and folks at home, obviously we're talking about centralized traffic control dispatching. We've got a little over a year ago we talked about timetable and train order and the fun you can have with that, and absolutely it's a ton of fun, but it's all about fun switches tonight and the cool things you can do dispatching trains this way versus another way. So we've got a cast of characters. We've got a bunch of trains out on the line that are going to be hitting the line soon. At least there's a couple of scheduled passenger trains that are out there at some point that are running on AI. So they'll probably shout in the upper right hand corner when they're ready to leave, and we'll get them signals. But yeah, let's start moving some trains. Is anyone ready to start leaving?
I'm all set.
All right. Oh well, you're the complicated one.
Aha.
Okay. Well, I guess we're gonna start with a complicated one right off the bat. So before we start diving into history, Dave, and how we got to CTC from timetable and train order, our first train tonight is on the branch up in Alarka. It's unsignaled territory, and we got to get him down to our first signal at Alarka Junction. And we were talking about this a little bit before stream, and my first move here is giving him authority. Correct?
That's correct. So if he's already en route, and it really depends on the era and the prototype. I mean, one of the things to keep in mind about any signal application like this is that it's all about main track. And so railroads define track in different ways depending on how it's used. So you've got yard tracks, you have siding tracks, you've got main tracks. And main tracks are listed as such in the timetable. And our friend George can confirm this even with Canadian National today, that main tracks are listed as such in the timetable. And to enter a main track, you need permission and you need authority. But one of the curveballs with railroad terminology and language is that main track, we think of main track today being, double track main line or a signaled CTC single track main line like we're looking at here on the screen. We think of it, big passenger terminals and hump yards and modern welded rail. But technically, all a main track is a track that's designated in the timetable as a main track. So the branch here, down to Alarka Junction, functions as a main track. It's the main line of the branch. And so you'll need permission and authority, unless the train's already en route and has those, for it to leave a yard into dark territory, or a yard that is dark territory, into a dark main line. It would need some paper, either written or verbal authority is how that's usually carried out.
All right. So, George, I gave you a train order in the streaming chat. It gives you permission to run extra Alarka to Alarka Junction, and we'll be talking to you there.
Perfect. And I have work online, but the nice thing about this is that for our authorities, the way that it works is unless, like, if I'm spotting an industry, technically the train isn't moving because I'm tying it down.
Mm-hmm.
So because I'm not traversing more than the entire length of my train, I don't have to get a work authority because a work authority allows you to move backwards and forwards as much as you want. But that's implying that the entire train is moving backwards and forwards as much as you want. If you're going on a proceed clearance, which is what you've given me from point A to point B, I can still do work. I just can't like back the train up back to Alarco if I made it halfway. That would contravene the limits of the authority.
Correct. Yeah, correct. And it's some of these little nuances I think are important to call out because, and again, we're on a railroad here where the main track that's on the signal board that we're looking at is dispatcher controlled, and main track by definition is controlled by a dispatcher or operator. So that's part of our nomenclature that we're talking about. The branch line, George can run as an extra because the dispatcher has confirmed that there's nothing else out there in front of him. So as you can see, Casey just pulled that train symbol over to the branch line there, and that helps the dispatcher keep in mind that there's something already on that branch. In timetable train order world, where there is no dispatcher panel to speak of, that's where the timetable would be Georgia's first resource to check and make sure that no other trains are out there. But in centralized traffic control, it's the dispatcher or operator's authority that carries the weight. And so the dispatcher or operator is responsible to make sure that the branch is clear except for the extra that's running now, extra 141.
Dispatch,
We
this
are
is
in-
8:30.
Oh, and here we go. We got our first move in Sig. Where are you at? 6:30. How you doing?
Or 8:30.
8:30.
This is 8:30. Yep, I prepped it. I got my locomotive topped off, and I'm looking to head from Dillsborough Engine House to Silva Interchange to pick up coal 1.
All right. So I'm gonna create a tag for you. All right. So you're at Dillsborough Engine House. So what's my move here, Dave? Coming out of a engine terminal onto the main.
Usually in a situation, an engine terminal is going to almost always be not controlled track. It's going to be dark territory. And I'm glancing at Dillsborough siding here.
And I'll bring up the map as well, so that way we could look at both. So.
And looks to me like so he's got to have a hand throw off the Dillsborough siding at some point.
Yep, look like he's right there. Coming out onto the main before our signal up there.
Okay.
Heading towards the right on our screen.
Yep. So that's one thing is that we, it's one of the important little pieces of nomenclature in CTC or in timetable train order is it's like every good railroad rule, like we were talking precast, is written in blood. So this way, right, left, all of that, the way that a railroader would describe it is east or west, north or south, again, based on what the timetable says for the route. So if to the right is east, then what the engineer of the X830 would give you a call and say X830 to dispatch, or X830 to the dispatcher with ER and the name of the railroad, depending on, it's just all based on local culture and the different rule books. And they would want permission from the engine house in Dillsborough, but what they would mention is what they need the operator to do or the dispatcher to do. So looking at the map, I'm going to come out of the engine house. I need permission on the main track in I'm guessing that's east direction to Silva?
Yeah, to the right is east.
Yep. So I need permission from Dillsborough in an east direction siding to main line to Silva for my work.
All right. So 8:30, you've got permission to open up, come out onto the main. I'm gonna start giving you lights all the way to Silva.
Oh, there we go. Not the siding, but you can come right out on the main line. That's even easier. Yep.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting piece of nomenclature because, and here we see the track occupancy light, the TOL. When that little light there lights up, that tells you that block is occupied by a train. And so it lit up there for a second, maybe when the switch was thrown. And there we go, occupied block.
Yeah, and lights up when the switch is thrown. So we know that's not a clear block.
And having that secondary map screen is really helpful here because it helps people visualize what's actually out in the field. One of the things that's the hardest to learn about railroads in CTC is that a lot of it's done on a line diagram, like you can see on the actual machine screen. But in real life, obviously, there's twists and turns and grade crossings and bridges and all sorts of station platforms and other freight cars around, and learning how to coordinate those two in your mind is one of the big challenges.
Mm-hmm. So the couple of short lines that I've worked for, even though it was it was all dark territory, the dispatchers still had to serve a period of time in train crew, so that way they understood the physical characteristics of
Which is a very wise thing to do. Yep. The other thing is that it's, whether it's paper and pencil in an office with timetable train order or Form Ds or track warrants, or you're behind a screen or a panel like this where you're throwing switches with an electric lock remotely. In either case, it's really important. Short lining is the same as Class 1 railroading when it comes to the fact that you're dealing with heavy equipment. And physics has no friends, as they say. You can mean to run through the switch in the right direction, but if you run a switch that's reversed, something different's going to happen, whether you mean to or not. And so there's a real hardcore set of rules to help protect equipment from hitting other equipment wherever it may be. And so that's why they're so ironclad about it, because even a small mistake can have huge consequences.
Yeah, we're not working with toys on a layout here. It's, these big things, they kill people. So, yeah.
The mindset has to be that way, and that's one of the fun things I think about operations in general. And one of the coolest parts of V-Scale is that, we talked a little bit before about how a basement-sized layout is a huge investment, and there's no question between having a home where you can put one together, whether it's rented or purchased, and then the long process of designing and purchasing the materials and putting a layout together. It's a multiple year endeavor to do it. One of the neat parts about what you guys do with V-Scale is that you train a lot of the same mental aptitude to make it happen, which is really exciting. Because when you guys get a chance to operate, you're going to knock down a bunch of the basics already.
All right. And while you were talking in the in-game text chat, was giving 611 permission to do some yard moves through the yard limits. So, I'm gonna create that tag. What was that? OENG. There we go.
And one of the things I just heard while you were talking, Case, is the clicking of the relays behind the board. So one of the neat things for everybody. Oh, it's so cool. And there's a few model railroads I've had the privilege of operating on. One of them's out in Colorado, where the guy has wired up an old CTC machine, GRS, just like this one, in real life with the relays that work. Not just electronics, but the actual physical relays. And so in the years before transistors and before PC boards, all of this was done with electromagnets. And this is covered in detail in the book Signals and Interlockings, the Guide to Signals and Interlockings that I wrote for Kalmbach. And it's worth a read. It is remarkable what people did with analog equipment back in the day. Absolutely remarkable.
Oh, it is so cool. And if you do want to purchase the book, I have it pinned at the top of the chat. So it'll be there until the end of the stream, and it'll be down in the comments if you're or down in the description if you're watching this later. Great book.
Just for the record, Case, this is a benevolent dispatcher. Thank you. That's high praise to have it in the chat there. Thank you.
We call it the VRA Book Club. When we find books that we really love and are think worthwhile for other people to pick up, we like to share, and occasionally everyone of our watchers we chat about good books. So I think it's helpful, and it's, dispatching I think is kind of a black art of railroad operations. People know it, but they don't know it, so to speak.
I agree.
So to be able to have a good source of not I'm hesitant to call it a one-stop shop because I don't believe in a one-stop shop, but a good resource I think is important for the world to know about.
And that was the goal of writing that particular book. It was the first time I'd ever written a full-length book, and it was not my idea. Kalmbach, and actually it was actually through Tony Custer, who lives only about 40 miles from me, just by luck of the draw. He approached me once after an operating session and said, "Have you heard from Kalmbach about a book?" I said, "No, Tony." I said, "I'm not even sure what you're talking about." He's like, "Well, they need to write a book on signals, and we decided you're the guy." And I said, "What?" It's my day job on NJ Transit is facilities management. We manage station facilities. That's not signals. I mean, we have signals on the OC. Like a cutoff's loaded with signals. He says, "Well, sometimes you have to trust the judgment of others, Dave, and you got to realize that, writing a book about signals is not necessarily best done by a signal engineer because they already understand it. We need something here that'll help explain it to everybody else." And that was the foundational goal of the book. And it's really warms my heart to hear you say that's how you guys see it. Because I think what it is the on-ramp for people that enjoy trains and watching trains, model trains, the on-ramp to understanding a little bit about dispatching, operating, and how the signals, the logic of the signals works and why it exists. A good third of the book is all prototype based.
Absolutely, and we talked about this when we were talking about timetable and train order, and I'm blanking on his name right now. He has the not Pittsburgh and Lake Erie layout. This is gonna bother me. Not O&W. It is Susquehanna,
Virginia
New
Midland?
York.
Oh, okay. New York, Susquehanna, and Western?
No, Susquehanna, New York and Susquehanna. It is. What is his name? Times when I wish Nick doesn't travel for work and he can be here to tell me who people are. Well, it's going to come to me. And we've talked in length off camera about this, but kind of the really good resource for timetable and train order and I think CTC boards and dispatching. It doesn't come from the railroad industry, so to speak, because it's not always as accessible for everyone, but I truly believe that it comes from the model railroad industry, where guys like you have dove into this and studied it and learned how it works and recreated it in the miniature, and operate trains in that style in the miniature. And I truly believe that's where the better knowledge base comes from, because it's more accessible, and folks like yourself have done so much research into it that you understand it as well as the big railroads.
There's definitely an ability to translate it, I think. And one of the cool parts about model railroading with older technology, which would include, believe it or not, CTC, the board you're looking at here, the first centralized traffic control was 1928 on the New York Central in Ohio on a branch line. Wow. And quickly followed by Tennessee Pass on the Denver and Rio Grande Western. Wow. Those are the first two GRS signal installations in North America. The first true centralized traffic control was these two short little segments. But even that is 100 years old.
That's still older than I thought it would be.
Isn't that amazing? It's been around a long time. So everybody can see what Casey's doing here, manipulating the levers, or levers, depending on how you pronounce it. But there are the levers, the two different rows, top and bottom, green and red, are for two different things. And the top on the GRS machine is the normal reverse switch throw. So that's how you line a turnout, a switch in the track. Normal is generally straight, reverse is generally curved into a siding or a yard.
Mm-hmm.
And
we
then,
can see what I just set up here.
yeah,
Bringing our
there we go.
passenger train into the station.
And then below that, you've got another set of levers, and those are the signal indicators. So how you, quote unquote, line a route is using the signals. And you'll notice that the switches are odd numbers, 83, 85, 79. The signals are even numbers. Again, written in blood. You don't ever want to make the distinction in the incorrect way between a switch and a signal. So a fail-safe way to do that is to keep the labeling consistent. But the left and right, L and R down below on the signals, I've always found that to be a little ironic because it's not how the railroad is dispatched verbally or in writing. You never say permission left from the siding to the main. It's always permission east or permission west, north or south, depending on timetable designation. But for the dispatcher or operator who's using the panel, it is left or right. And that's why they name it left or right, because it's left and right are constant. North and south and east and west on the panel change. So they have the L and the R to try and make it fail safe for the dispatcher or operator. But you can hear the relays in the background clicking, and that's how the whole system was based. That's how the logic was built in, and it was all literally hand carved in brass. The insides of these machines, each one was made custom and was the size of a grand piano. And based on how the locks and the bars interacted, that's what determined what was safe for movement and what was not.
Wow. I'd love to find a good video of someone who has one of these boards that maybe, you know what? I'm going to be at IRM for Showcase. Maybe that's where I get to see this firsthand. And, like, be able to really look at how all that stuff works and kind of get to experience it and not touch it because it's painful electronics, but, you know.
That place is a great place to experience it. That's a good choice. The other choice that I think is fantastic is the Harrisburg, PA chapter of the National Railway Historical Society has restored Harris Tower, and believe it or not, has a JMRI simulation of PRR mainline traffic on the original USNS Union Switch and Signal machine that works in that tower, which is awesome.
Is incredible.
Yep, there's a guy named Dan Rapak who worked with Alex Lang for a while to develop some of the technology, but Brock Kirshner and a bunch of other people were involved with that, and it's 100% worth your time if you ever get a chance to stop by and see it. That's the National Railway Historical Society, NRHS, Harris Tower in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Awesome. Well, that's going on my list. So we've been dancing around this as we've been trying to get trains moving here for the start of the tonight's conversation. But you mentioned 1928. So how did we get to this point where we're all timetable and train order? We're calling up dispatchers on line side phones and writing everything out on paper. How did we go from that to moving everything to a centralized location?
Well, it was a gradual transition, and largely New York Central, GRS really was almost a relative of the New York Central system, based in Rochester, New York. And early on, with automatic block signals and then what they call the automatic permissive, APB, the difference is that automatic block signals were simply a track circuit based situation where they did not convey authority. They did help with protection for following moves, and quickly became adopted on busy high-speed main lines because they help prevent accidents. And like everything else, a lot of it came down to following the money. Accidents with higher speed, high-density lines became more and more expensive, and adding track was equally expensive, especially in urban areas or mountain territory, because you didn't have the land available to build the extra tracks. So as traffic built and accidents got worse, railroads started to look for a solution based on this automatic block signal system, which was protecting the rear end of trains or protecting against a broken rail because it would break the circuit. Mm-hmm. pretty quickly the companies came up with the idea that you could have all of the signals facing one way show stop and proceed as soon as the train was routed the other way. And that's that absolute permissive block signal system. They called that a traffic stick, just like the stick on the ground, STICK. The traffic stick would point the direction of the travel of the first train that entered that single track territory, and all the opposing signals would be knocked down to red. It was still timetable train order. It was still handled with paperwork and with the timetable. But this, now you suddenly had protection against moves coming towards you, as well as moves behind you that might run up against the back of your train as you went along. But that still didn't help with the fact that all of these trains had to be in the timetable. And anything that wasn't in the timetable ran as an extra and could sit for 8, 10, 12 hours if a train was late on the timetable, on the schedule. So as New York Central pushed into this new technology where they started to be able to try and create a controlled switch, a switch where the dispatcher or operator, like you would in a tower, and the tower control of these things already existed with the Armstrong levers and what have you. But taking that same logic that was in an interlocking that was manually controlled and grouping them together to have a centralized traffic control board was something that was pushed very much in the roaring 20s as traffic piled up and as accidents got worse. And what we saw fairly quickly was railroads that had a tremendous amount of capacity but needed to run even more started to be very interested, and that's where you saw the New York Central start to pursue the technology early. Likewise, the Denver and Rio Grande Western, between Pueblo and Grand Junction and Salt Lake City, had an amazing mountain territory up through Tennessee Pass, where there were helper operations and traffic was increasing. And so they, as an experiment, rather than double tracking the tunnel through the summit of the Rocky Mountains and adding a bunch of very expensive double track, they spent the money instead on this experimental new signal system for 20 miles and suddenly realized that they could do the whole thing with one operator instead of multiple people trying to help the trains up there. And so they could squeeze in, instead of 8 or 10 trains a day, suddenly you could make 16 or 20 moves a day with just one person handling the electronics at the top of the hill. Wow. Which justified the investment and started them on the long path to basically signaling the whole main line.
Wow.
Dispatch, this is Cole 1.
Hello, Cole 1. I take it you're engine 830?
Yep, I've assembled my train at Silva Interchange. I'm looking to head toward Robinson Gap Mine at your convenience, at your discretion.
Alright, yep, I don't quite see you on the board yet, so let's talk when you hit the signals.
Understood. Departing
Enjoy your yard limits up there.
Understood. Proceeding westbound.
So, and if people played Railroader, they're familiar with this, the ABS CTC switch on our board. So, you were talking about stop and proceed signals, and that's so when we're in ABS mode playing this game and the CTC board is turned off, that's what our intermediate signals would become then. Those are our stop and proceed signals.
Correct. And in fact, everything, even the limits of the interlockings, if it's ABS, those can all be hand throw switches.
Yeah.
Yep. So you would manually line yourself in or out of a siding based on timetable and train order, rules, or track warrants.
So that's it's nice to have a game that you can really have all three options in. And one of the biggest pats on the back I give Railroaders, we've done timetable and train order. We're doing CTC. I guess we could technically do timetable and train order again if the community is interested in it and talk about ABS at a future point. But being able to talk about these different methods of moving trains, and yes, please, from one of our friends. Hi, Jay.
Yeah, I know you 611 actually. Calling Bryson.
Hello, 611.
Yeah, extra, or I guess 11 West. We're looking to get permission to open hand throw at the west end of Dillsboro Yard to make a to get some headroom here to shove down onto our train. Over.
You have permission to open up to run around and shove onto your train.
Roger that. Permission granted. Thank you.
240 to dispatch.
Hello, 240.
We finished our work here in Nantahala and looking to head east.
All right, let's get you moving east. I'm gonna preemptively give you a light, but let's talk when you hit signal territory.
We'll be hitting signal territory in about 600 feet.
And you were Coal 4.
Correct.
240 was your engine number.
240, coal 4. Read back through.
All right. Boy, when it rains, it pours doing this. All of a sudden, everyone wants to talk to you.
That's railroading 101, right? Is that 80% of your trains are in 20% of your territory, 80% of the time.
All right, and
And so you can see here, everybody who's watching Casey do her work here, it's really important to think about when you take a step back. So she's not just labeling stuff and routing it nilly-willy. There's some thoughts into what's going where and where those meets are going to be set up. So it's very quickly becomes a chess game where you have to sort of think 3 or 4 steps ahead. Even just automatic block signal systems, that's an overlay. It's an extra layer of protection in a timetable train order territory or track warrant territory. But in CTC, those signals provide both the authority and the protection. So the only thing protecting these trains against each other is the signal system and Casey making the right decisions. And the machine will guide her through, but in general, she's got to be the one that thinks ahead and doesn't have 3 trains that can only fit in a spot that has 2.
The amount of times I've done that playing this game is not 0. Also, hello, Rudy. I just saw you pop up in the call.
Hi, I made it.
We're talking with Dave and we're dispatching trains, or at least trying to. But I'm sure you're here to help my life.
Help or hinder.
Good evening, Rudy.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Doing pretty good.
So I got big coal train over there. With I'm watching the cart. I guess this is not a thing you can do in real life, but the wonderful thing about digital is it tells me how long my trains are when I hover over the block occupancy, and I am just watching that coal train coming out of Nantahala get ever bigger. So that, and I've got a big coal train coming from over there. All right, passenger train, locals up there, passenger train, extra. Okay. So,
Dispatch, this is Cole 1. I'm approaching Dillsboro. Am I good to proceed westbound to Robinson Gap?
Yep, proceed on signal indication.
Understood. Proceeding westbound. Will I be expecting any meets?
No idea.
Understood.
Okay. Well, in the chat, if you guys are seeing anything out there you have questions on, you need more explanation on, please type away in the chat, let us know. Happy to have questions come from you guys, not just me. I hear myself talk all the time and ask questions all the time. It's nice to hear them from someone else. So, I'm just pulling up the notes, Dave, of what we were talking about beforehand here. Nope, that's... Alright, okay, so we've teased around the topic of your book a little bit, and your wonderful Onondaga cutoff layout.
Oh, thank you.
And so, this is something you can do in V-scale. It's something railroads do. They actually do the thing with this. My cat is trying to climb up my window right now. It's not a VRA stream if my cat doesn't try and scale something she's not supposed to. So, how, this type of CTC boards have been integrated into model railroading for, as long as I can remember. I mean, my first instance of hearing about this was that giant San Diego club that does Tehachapi 187 scale, actually.
La Mesa it's the La Mesa Model Railroad Club in Balboa Park in San Diego. I cannot recommend it. That's one of those eye-opening experiences, especially if you have a chance to get there when they're running the railroad, which they post on their website periodically. And it's a great, I forget how many actual miles it is. 8 miles of HO scale track.
Sounds
yeah.
right.
That climbs 7 or 8. Excuse me.
I think
40 or 50 feet vertical elevation change.
It's like 2-story vertical elevation change.
It's incredible, and it's done so well that there's spots where you can stand on the model railroad and look and see the same vista with the railroad crisscrossing the mountains, just like you can at Caliente, California, or Billville, or any of these legendary towns on the SP on the Tehachapi Loop. Totally awesome. And that they've got a CTC panel there that's been around for a long time. Even back to the Sunset Valley lines, which was Bruce Chubb's railroad. He was one of the real pioneers in model railroad signaling. And today, one of the major systems that's still used at a lot of the big name model railroads around the country that have signals is the MRI, the Chubb Model Railroad Interface, instead of the Java Model Railroad Interface. And Chubb really created a lot of this on the head end with proprietary software. And it's older software now, of course, because it's been around for 70 years, 60 years. But it's pretty remarkable stuff, and it still is one of the standard bearers for signal railroads in the hobby.
And in your experience, on your layout, on others as you're touring this, how well integrated and what are people doing to do CTC? Are they building their own versions of US switch and signal boards? Are they getting old ones? Are they some type of computer control with a digital surface?
It's a mix. A lot of people, the easiest way to do it is to either with CMRI or with JMRI using Digitrax or layout command control. LCC is the latest iteration of this. It's a great new system. That's by, I think it's called R Logics, I believe, is the guy doing that. But in any case, all of them now offer a green, either a panel like the one we're looking at here, or a line diagram like the Onondaga cutoff, like the one we use on the OC, and which is just the same idea in the 90s technology as opposed to the 50s or 60s. But the idea is that you build the railroad virtually, even an actual physical HO scale or O scale or N scale model railroad. You basically build the track diagram that mimics the route that you're trying to operate. And what you're creating is the operating scheme that you actually have in a scale model railroad, but it gets put into your virtual display, which is linked to the actual track occupancy blocks and the TOLs, the track occupancy lights, that work on either through a visual detection or a current-based detection on your model railroad. And the logic, which exists in that digital sphere, allows you to use the computer to control your model railroad either through signal names and nodes based on the block detection or through paperwork if you want to do it that way. Building a CTC machine is another whole level. That's another whole dimension of the hobby where guys rescue either old CTC machines. There's entire Facebook groups and YouTube channels dedicated to restoring signal detection equipment and the relays and the logic and such. And there's all sorts of ways to fillet it together. But it really is a hobby within the hobby to bring signals to a model railroad.
I think it's such a cool and unique way of doing it, and it's not even I don't even think it's really scaling it down, cause it's the same way of working, regardless of
It's
if
yeah,
you're
you're
at
right.
at a
It's
desk in a tower on New Jersey Transit, or if you're sitting at your desk at home playing Railroader, or hanging out in
you got it.
Dave's
It's
basement.
railroading in miniature, and it's one of the things that I joke about with the guys in the operating community down here in New Jersey is that we're model railroaders, but we're modeling railroading with the ing at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Because whether it's scale or virtual or your local short line tourist operation or George's next train on CN, railroading involves taking equipment over a fixed guideway safely and in service of the public. And that idea is very, very compelling. And that's one of the fun parts about an operating session. You know, we're listening to this fun session, and your engineers are calling in for permission from here to there. You're responding in kind, lining them across the board. And that's exactly the same characteristics of prototype operations, which makes it also fascinating.
I think it's one of the few aspects of prototype operations that scales too, because it's not really any different. A model steam locomotive doesn't run like a steam locomotive. A virtual diesel, I guess it depends on the game, doesn't. It's not like George going out and running a 470,000 foot train. I'm sure I don't know how big your trains are, George. Sorry.
Long enough.
Close enough. But it scales. It's the same for all intents
Yeah.
and purposes.
Yeah,
I
and
have
the,
found that
lo-
it
the
scales
logic
remarkably
remains.
well.
What was that, George?
I was no, sorry, I didn't mean to cut Dave off. I was just saying I have found that it scales remarkably well, especially this aspect of it.
You can definitely learn the cadence of an operation in many different ways. Sometimes in model railroading, you run into the problem of short mainline runs, and that's one of the cool parts about the V-scale is that you can actually make it so that the simulation isn't scaled down. If you want to, you can have those nice long mainline runs at no extra cost. You don't have to add a basement. It's kind of nice.
30 miles will feel just like 30 miles.
Yeah, that's right.
Mhm.
It's a long distance.
All right, that's moving. I'm just updating my board here and catching up. Yeah, when everything starts moving, you really got to stay on top of it. All right, 97. I know you're yelling at me because you're at a light. I'm gonna give you a light up the Alarka branch, but you don't have permission past the Y switch. Gonna hold you for 141.
Smash, this is Cole 1. I'm looking at Redboard on the west side of Barker's.
Hey, Cole 1, getting you lights out of Barker's.
Understood. Proceeding westbound.
Right. That's there. We keep that moving. It's very much a juggling act.
Nice work, Casey. Very nice work. I like it.
It's a lot to keep up with.
It's a lot to keep up with. Absolutely.
Oh, Rudy needs to not be a passenger. Rudy, congratulations. You're now a train master.
611 to towers, which is London lock for mainline operation.
611 line lock main. I'm gonna get you going out of that block next. Approach at Brooks. See, this is, I don't know if this is a benefit or a negative, but if you have a train running on AI in this, it yells at you if it sees a restricting, and it yells at you if it sees a red, so that way you know it stopped. Which, I don't know, George, is that what you do to your dispatchers?
If you're not very nice, yeah. Put it this way, the rule of thumb that I've always gone by, and I mean most of the guys that I work with, it's the same way. It's very rare you find somebody who doesn't think this way, but you don't bite the hand that gets you lights home.
That's
I mean, it's
where it's supposed
right,
to
like
true veteran. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. But one of the neat things about operations in the model sense or the visual sense, or virtual sense, I should say, sometimes you can really get some of the personality conflicts that we see in real life. And
oh yes,
one of the things that's neat about model railroad operations is you do get some of that. You know, people have to manage through those conflicts, which is pretty neat.
97 to dispatch. My conductor just threw a fit and tossed the train order into the firebox. What was I supposed to be doing again?
You're gonna hang out there until 141 passes, and then we'll get you permission up the branch.
Thank you, dispatch. I've got a conductor to go deal with.
Bring the brake stick.
That's what they used to call the employee assistance program, was the brake stick. Yep.
that's right.
I'm glad the joke from my my short line stuff carries over to elsewhere. Alright, so I'm starting to think ahead. I've got my two big passenger trains on the railroad. It looks like I was a good dispatcher, and they're both going to actually meet in the middle of the railroad where there's enough room to pass them and not clog up everything else. So that's positive. I see I got 141 that's eventually going to be coming off the branch, and I'm going to have to deal with meeting it with probably coal 1. And I've got big coal trains that are going to need to pass somewhere that I'm going to need to deal with. So, feels easy right now.
We'll just wait.
That's moved to
It'll
there,
get worse.
That's I'm bracing for it. It's gonna get something's gonna happen here, and I'm not sure what. And alright, you're there. You're coming up to the junction, so I'm gonna put you there. And that's still moving. Okay, I don't think I'm doing too bad so far, but it's not that busy yet. Stop signal. You have a stop signal. Alright, no. I'm not gonna get you past there. So I gotta figure out the meat you're gonna have with that before I do that. Okay. Alright, that's all good. I hear... Sorry, I hear an engine, but I don't see an engine. Oh, that's Rudy over there. Okay. Alright, so... This is... all of this. Okay, 972... Gonna hold you till 141 is off the branch. And someone was yelling at me about 1098. Is that still a thing?
.78, holding at red board for Silva, looking ahead west.
Yeah, let's get you going too. Gonna get you lights to Dillsboro.
Thank you, dispatch.
Alright.
Now
so
we can hear why it's called on the bell, because every time the train comes onto the territory, you can hear the bell.
Yeah, I've never heard it called that before.
Yep. So you would say, you know, X870 on the bell. RS1, some sort of
Susquehanna 142. A little bit of New Jersey here in North Carolina.
I love it. I'll take it.
Okay. So, this dark territory is proving to be quite problematic, but interesting operationally. Plus, I don't have an operator at the station that's 3/4 of the way down the branch, so realistically, without the map, I don't know what's happening with 141 unless they call in and talk to me. So I'm just kind of posed here holding stuff at either end of the branch until I can talk with 141. That's proving an interesting operational problem to be dealing with.
This is where the radio base became such an important part of railroading in the 70s and 80s. And that was really the death knell with timetable train order. Once you could have radio contact with your train and you could update a train order en route, it changed the game. But until that point, you had to rely on train orders, which only could be given at stations that were open.
Mm-hmm. So that's hosing me there, and I think that's going to end up being a little bit of a problem. Hopefully not too much of a problem, but I think that's going to end up being the thing that causes me to choke here, is managing that unsignaled branch, which, again, interesting operationally.
And it's a good illustration of just how much signals change the game. It's managing a dark branch is very difficult to do because it requires not just manual brain power, but also manually writing out orders that you can only hand up at certain spots.
Yeah. So it's yeah, I guess it's good things to think about for planning your model railroad as well. Do you want to include something like this to change your operation and make it more, not more interesting, but interesting in a different way? It's a new challenge for your operators and your crews to try and manage when they're running the layout.
One of the neat things about operations in general is that whether it's a freelance model railroad or a proto-freelance, where it's a prototype railroad on a freelance route, or vice versa, or it's a purely prototype-based operation, is that in any of those cases, there's a prototype for just about everything. And so if you want to really have an intricate series of operating situations, there's prototypes out there for that. There are people that model certain railroads only because of the prototype situations they get themselves into. So there's a lot of opportunity for us as model railroaders to sort of pick and choose what we want to do. I just love that relay. That's so cool.
It's such a satisfying sound.
It is great. I love it.
Dispatch Cole 1.
This is Cole 1. What's up, dispatch?
How long of a train do you have?
Let's see, 1,274 feet.
Alright. We're gonna get you to... We're gonna try and get you to Gov Island and not stab the passenger train.
Understood. Taking a hole at Governor's Island.
I am so glad that the game doesn't make you run time on what you send. I think if I had to run time every time I threw a switch, it would kill me a little bit.
No, it's a lot more work that way. And I think, one of the reasons that runtime is built into model railroading and why it's so important is that you can have it that way if you want to put it in, but you got to remember that people that are doing what you're doing right now, Case, we're doing this, 4 or 5 days a week for 8 to 12 hours a day, and it was their whole life. This was your job every single day of the week. So we have other jobs, we do other things, and we come in to simulate it and have fun with the camaraderie of model railroading. And in the end, it's not fun if nobody's having fun.
Exactly.
So being able to turn the runtime off is important for those of us like me and others that aren't. We're going to make mistakes. Learning is part of the fun with this.
Yeah.
And running time is not fun ever.
Oh, God. That'd be a drag doing this. All right. So I've got my first meet set up here. I did this right. My
Looking
two
good.
passenger trains are going to hit the middle of the railroad at the same time. And then I'm assuming the Rogue RS1 in the yard is my local that's heading out. So that I need to start prepping for and thinking about. Because I gotta pass them and a giant coal train somewhere. And I gotta get the passenger train past the coal train.
And locals are tricky, of course, because you never quite know how long they're going to take.
Exactly. That's my fear right now with Train 11 out here, since they're a local that's I know is going to end up ducking into an industry that's off the board over here for a bit. So again, it comes back to knowing your territory and why it's great when dispatchers are people who came up on the railroad and got to see it. There's, I don't know if he's still alive. I remember ages ago on Facebook, there was a guy who would post in the EL historic, or the EL Facebook page, and he would post stories of his time as a tower operator on the EL. And those are the stories that first got me interested in dispatching and CTC and timetable and train order.
Artie Erdman, maybe?
Maybe.
Artie was a Lackawanna and then Erie Lackawanna guy, so that may be who you're thinking of.
Maybe. That sounds familiar. But it was those stories that got me thinking about dispatching and how all this stuff works and what's doing what where. It was eye-opening as to how the railroad operates. Yeah, it's instrumental, shall we say. Alright, so
Having access to these old stories is super important for those of us that are learning to do it again.
It's a lost art, and it's great to learn from these guys and carry on, and man, that's cool.
That is completely awesome.
Alright, so that's there. They're 2 blocks out, because each one of these lights is a block. At least on this board. I don't know if that's a standard thing.
It depends on the system. In most cases, that is true, but not necessarily. It's that's part of being physically characteristics qualified. In a lot of cases where there's lots of intermediate blocks, sometimes they'll show it with an occupancy light to cover 5 or 6 blocks at the same time, especially on some of the older systems. But as that's obviously more dangerous because you don't know exactly where the train is in that block when that's the case.
Alright, so I've got that yard move going on out there. That's there. That's there. Alright. Not doing too bad yet.
I think you're doing real well. So this is a lot of fun to watch.
I haven't actually operated this dispatch board in... Oh god, there's a train out there I forgot about.
It was the release stream, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's been a fair while.
2 years ago
you were
since I've run the
last
board, and even that, like, I didn't really know what I was doing, and gummed everything up. And I just lost the train on the railroad that the game chat yelled at me about.
To be fair, we got a little bit lost ourselves.
Honest to God,
There was
had
a
no
cow
idea
on the
that was out
tracks,
there.
kept us busy.
So we had a Penn Central moment.
Hey T5, can you stop 611? My game crashed.
Stopping 611.
Thank you.
DL2 to dispatch.
Hello, DL2.
Hi, I'm your Rogue RS1 and Mikado combination. I am looking to head east. I need to get from the yard in Bryson to the siding in Ella with about 1,700 feet of train.
All right, I'm going to... I've got a passenger train coming in. I'm going to get you out behind the passenger train, and
Okay.
we'll let you run out behind them. So just hang out at the yard lead switch, and as soon as their marker's clear, you can open up.
Roger that.
The Walter Rich Express over there.
I actually met that guy a bunch of times when I was at Syracuse University. He was a graduate of the law school there. Really a neat guy. The kind of guy that never forgot anything. Guy remembered every name of anybody he'd ever met.
That's I hear those stories about Walter all the time, and I unfortunately never had the pleasure of meeting him. He had passed by the time I had gotten involved in preservation. But it was nice to come up on the stories. And for those of you who don't know out there, Walter Rich, he was the president, CEO, owner, chief crazy guy of the New York, Susquehanna, and Western.
Yeah, and the whole Delarod Sago fiasco. Yeah, yep.
So that is Walter Rich. All right. Well, that meet went successfully. Alright, you go over there, you go over there. Maybe you go over there.
Casey, how many years have you been doing the virtual model railroading?
Yeah, I started playing, and I think this is probably the same story everyone can say about virtual railroading is, I started playing MSTS, and way back when, and kind of, it all started with that silly little train game, and, got tired of it, got to college, and discovered that, hey, I can go volunteer and play with real trains. And
Sure.
started volunteering and got involved and started working on 142. And when I moved to upstate New York, I got involved with the Valley Railroad and swapped from one SY to another, as the joke goes. And and then around COVID, we weren't running trains. I was bored, and all of these new train games started popping up on the internet again. And I was like, hey, you know what? Maybe I should check one of these out, and started playing Railroads Online and then Railroader, and it kind of just devolved from there.
I think it's great. Yep.
It's a fantastic community, and I think it does stuff that you can do with model railroads, and you can do with one-to-one railroads. But the opportunities are almost limitless.
Well, and location doesn't matter, right? Like, location of the user doesn't matter.
Yeah, we could be anywhere. We're multi-country here right now, and we're all hanging out, playing a game, and learning about new things. And I think it's a wonderful thing that modern technology allows us to do. And yeah, I can pontificate for far too long about this type of stuff.
Well, it wouldn't be an operating session without some of that anyway. It's all good.
This is true. It is. It does
Gotta have
lend
fun with
itself
it,
to
right? Gotta have fun
pontification.
with it.
Yes. Yeah. So
2101 to dispatch.
hello 2101.
We are at
I'm
east
holding
or
2101.
west.
Rudy specifically requested to run that. But I told him he had to get something to East Whittier for me first.
Fair enough.
Oh, God, I lost another train on the railroad. Where did you go? You're over here.
Dispatch, Coal 1 is in the hole at Governor's Island.
Thank you.
Now I have a small problem.
Oh?
There is insufficient space at an industry to spot 2 cars. There's already 2 there that are not released.
Are we doing an empties east, empties west now?
I mean, my theory was either A, I can tie down the siding and then the siding's out of service with secured equipment. If no one else is really going to be used, if you don't anticipate a meet at Cochrane, then we should be good. But if you do, then we're kind of out of luck. Because even if I spot it in the siding, but it leave the switch open, and then you keep a record of the switch being open, which is what we have to do in dark territory, it's still in the way, and it'll still be foul. So that doesn't help with meets.
No, I do have 2 trains I gotta get by at some point. But I could meet.
I can just take it back. I can
once you get through.
I could just take it with me back to the yard, and we'll just cycle it, and it'll come back.
We'll dump it back in the yard, and they'll head back up on the tomorrow.
We will simply code it insufficient space of customer track and move on. That happens all the time.
Yeah, and that's actually a good lesson. That's a good lesson to remember, is that you got to deal with reality sometimes in railroading that you didn't expect. And too little space on a track is something that happens, and that just means you adapt and continue to run. That's what you have to do.
Alright, now, I think I'm backing my... Hello?
We've got ourselves a bit of an issue here, Dispatch.
Oh no.
We are just about to stall here at, Brooks.
Oh my god. Well.
Someone call the helper.
What do we have in the yard for power?
Not enough.
Nothing big.
Send the unit down out of Robinson.
We could go fetch the Robinson switcher to go drag you up the hill.
You have 90 in the yard.
We do. Would you like to fetch a relief engineer and we can get 90 coming uphill to come help you?
Yeah, that could work.
Well, Dave, I think I dispatched myself into a pickle.
It happens to the best of us, Case. And actually, I'm usually the guy that's running the trains. As much as I love the signals and the the operator side of the OC, the best part about having an operating session is watching the railroad run, standing back and watching it go, and having that experience of being trackside. So I very much admire your ability to jump right in and give this the old college try, as they say.
Yes, I'm...
33 to dispatch.
Hello, 33.
We've finished our switching down at Elizabethtown and are looking to head west, or eastbound, sorry.
Oh my god. Okay. 33. Okay, come on, game, keep up. You know, don't look right. Don't look left, look right. Okay.
I think when you look left, my connection goes. Ugh.
You're X33. Alright.
We're currently at Elizabethtown Junction, looking for clearance to flick switch to enter CTC territory.
Alright, 33, you got permission to open up into the CTC territory.
Thank you, dispatch.
Get your lights in the Bryson. We'll have a meeting here. Nope.
Roger, dispatch.
All right. 242 is there. That's there. That's going into the hole up there. And that's going to go into the hole up there. Okay, so that's going to sit in the hole there. That's going to sit in the hole there. I'm going to preemptively put those markers there. And God's biggest local, the SU-99 is heading to Ella.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So do you want DL2 to do its work in Whittier proper, or just do Ella and then book it to East Whittier?
Ella, and then book it to East Whittier. We'll get the 2101 moving.
Right.
Alright, so that's there. Coal 1, I've had you sitting for a while. Apologies. We're gonna get you into the hole in Bryson to meet 33 and 631.
Understood. Proceeding westbound to Bryson.
You're taking the hole. Okay, that guy is stalled. And well, that's cheating. I can't use the map. Okay.
No, the real dispatchers have a map at their disposal. That's not. I
True.
think it's all right.
True. All right, so gonna end up having something of a three-way meetup here. Well, that guy and that guy need a pass. But I can hold 470 on the main. Okay, so we're gonna get that lights to the main, and we're gonna figure that we're gonna send that guy around the passing track up here at our strangest junction. Now we've got a train rolling by.
Sounds good. It looks good.
It's still the coolest thing.
Oh, it really is neat.
I'm just now noticing the perspective of, like, if there's not a boxcar, it just looks like there's nothing there. And that's a strange feeling. Okay, so we're gonna sit back down. So I've got this meet to worry about. 1098 is gonna hold in that hole while 611 works its industry. And we'll probably have a meet in Whittier some point.
When we're watching this board light up, everybody, it really is neat to see Casey manipulate this back and forth. And if you notice, it's always the switch before the signal. And then once the train passes, you center everything up again in the opposite direction. You center up the signal, and then you can throw the switches again.
Yeah, that's actually, I instinctivly knew that, and I'm not sure how or where.
That's pretty
that
good.
came from.
Because you're a natural. That's how. This is great.
Hey.
I don't know. Anyone hiring dispatchers? I'm looking to change careers. I'm bored at my job. If you're out there hiring dispatchers, send me a message. Clean up my board here. Yeah, this is a lot of mental work to try and juggle what my plans are, and I'm glad I kind of front-loaded my questions, because I am so incredibly honed in on what my next move needs to be.
And that's just a sign of a good session, though, Case. This is like one of the things to remember is that the whole goal is to replicate something that other people do full time. Mm-hmm. So there's, and you're doing it in fast forward here too. Is there an official 3 to 1 clock or 2 to 1 clock on this?
It's 1 to 1 time. There is no fast clock. So it's
just
everything's happening at the speed that it actually happens. And
yeah, it's a busy railroad.
When you've got sidings every 3 miles or so, and a lot of traffic on your railroad, it gets busy. And when everything starts at the ends and ends up in the middle all at once, it's go no stop.
It's a lot.
It is. I'm having a ball with this, and like can't recommend it enough if you're playing your railroader sessions or if you get invited to a model railroad, that you consider trying out the dispatcher role and seeing if it tickles your fancy.
Yeah, it's definitely a learned art. Most layout owners are very excited to meet somebody that wants to dispatch. It takes a little bit of time, some training and things. It can be a daunting thing the first time you're at a model railroad, but if you're able to go back to one now and again, it's a great technique to be able to learn, and it's a great way to see the railroad from that perspective.
You get a real appreciation of this perspective of you see the whole picture, but on a
That's
very
correct.
compressed scale, and you can see the puzzle. Like I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I'm a visual learner. I'm a visual person. So like, I can see the puzzle pieces falling into place as everything's moving. Of like, oh, okay, yeah, no, that needs to happen here. And like, with 830 with Squiggy's train going, like, okay, that's a big coal train. I know Ella's too small, and I know you're here. So my opportunity to do something with you is either stop you short and Whittier or get you to Governor's Island, and what's going to work out best. And
That's right. Yep.
Thankfully, Governor's Island worked out there.
240 to dispatch.
Hello, 240.
We got some good news, dispatch. We sent the train crew back to shovel off a couple of tons of coal out of the cars, and we were able to get the train moving again.
Knowing you, I'm terrified of what that means.
Hey, good news is good news, dispatch.
It is. T5, lovely friend, is the equivalent of the guy who stalls on the model railroad and runs over to the engine terminal and grabs something else to keep moving.
Didn't have to do that this time, dispatch. Just got lucky.
A little bit fast.
2 miles an hour.
I will take it. Alright, I'm sending you through the hole at Larka Junction.
Alrighty, thank you, dispatch.
Right,
Now, not to complicate things further, Casey, but there is something with dark territory you can do if you want. So you've given me a proceed clearance from Alarka to Alarka Junction, and I've got work online, so I'm doing my thing. Depending on how plugged the junction's getting, if you need to put somebody else where you have 97 parked, like if there's more than one train coming down the junction, you can issue them a proceed clearance and then give them a protect against me. And if they have to talk to me between certain station name signs or mileages or whatever the case is. And then you can supersede, you can call me and supersede my clearance. Of course, this requires radio, but you can supersede my clearance with a new clearance that has me protecting against the train coming at me. That way you can move multiple movements through the same area, and then the onus becomes on the crew to negotiate the movement, and you can wash your hands of it.
Gotcha. And since the siding here to Lurka Junction, and let me pull up the map and look at this monstrosity, it's from this switch here to this switch here is all dark territory. So this is on my board through here. None of this isn't. And the junction being a station, and please correct me if I'm wrong, people who know more, the station here is my physical, that is a Larka Junction station. So when I give you permission to a Larka Junction, it's to the station.
Correct.
So this is where I would need to do what you were talking about, where I can give permission, and 240 needs to talk to you to see if they can use the leg of the Y, even though it's in CTC territory, because they've given you permission to that station sign.
Correct.
Oh my god, that is confusing. It
Yes,
makes sense,
it is.
but that... Huh.
But for instance, like just to give you an example, you could literally give 97, or I'm just going off engine number because that's all I can see on the map. But like, you could give 97 permission all the way from Alarka Junction to Alarka, and just give them a protect against me, and then we have to negotiate where we're gonna meet.
Gotcha.
And you would do that by radio.
Gotcha. And this, okay, yeah. I get that. We do similar stuff with our with how we dispatch trains on my railroad with our track authority, and how you follow trains when not when sharing occupancy and so yeah, okay, that I get that. That's how we do that. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess I've never thought of that as I can do that on my dinky little tourist line. Of course you can do it on CN. Like that makes sense. It's
Oh, yeah.
confusing, but it still makes sense. All right.
Now,
so that's
typically,
that.
I mean, like for instance, like when I don't work Dark Circuit anymore, but when I did, I mean, typically you wouldn't give an entire subdivision to a train. So yeah, protect against this
No.
guy somewhere. It would be more. The limits would be much more specific than that, and then you would usually go through more than one clearance in a trip.
Yeah.
We typically used it more for like foremen, and we'd have to talk to them. But of course, they were fixed and they weren't moving, so that was easy. Or if we happened to be passing a town where like a road switcher was working, we talked to them like within the town limits, and it's like that way you knew you were only protecting against the road switcher between like the south siding switch at Huntsville and the north siding switch at Huntsville or something to that effect, because that was all they were going to be. That was the only place where they could be. You wouldn't have to like go looking for them.
Gotcha. Interesting.
DL2 dispatch.
Hello, DL2.
DL2's got a relief engineer Schwarzenegger. Will be taking over eastbound from here to East Whittier.
All right. Are you a road Schwarzenegger or a waypoint Schwarzenegger?
Waypoint Schwarzenegger.
All right. That's what I like.
Right into East Whittier Yard. Because I got to go out and relieve the 2101's crew out in Silva.
Copy that. Terminator taking over.
Roger.
So,
2101 dispatch.
that was quick. Hello, 2101.
Looking, staring at a red board here in Silva, looking to go west.
All right. Extra 2101. You got light signal indication.
Roger, thank you.
11 West to dispatch. Switch is line to lock for mainline operation. We're delaying in block 2 next signal.
Hello, 11. I got ya. I got a switch open at Connolly Creek. Got an occupancy there. Not sure what's going on. So let's get you to East Whittier Yard. Stay in contact with the logging trains out there. Give them a holler on the radio as you approach their yard board and find out what's going on.
Roger that. Switch open at Connolly. We'll call.
There's the man.
I have arrived.
Hello.
But really, the
Reporting
man is
dispatch.
Mr. Abeles.
I'm enjoying this so much. This is fantastic.
How's it going, sir?
Very well. It's good to hear your voice. Hey, hanging in?
Doing all right.
It's a wild time, sir. I'm proud of you.
It is.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
240 to dispatch.
Hello, 240.
We stalled. We're not getting moving
Aw.
again. We need helper.
All right. Where'd you stall?
Just off the switch for Robinson's Gap.
You wanna talk to their switcher, see if they can come down and give you a hand?
Yeah, I'll give him a talk. See if I can offer some booze or something.
Make a trade, whatever you gotta do. Just don't sell an engine.
Yep. I'll make no promises there. They've been fishing for a B unit.
All right. That's there. Okay, I can't get that. much
Casey,
further than that.
you got a lot going on here. This is a busy railroad.
It is a. Yeah, it may not be Murphy Branch like in actual carloads, but it's fun from an operational perspective. I haven't dispatched since the game released. What was it, guys? Like a year and a half ago now, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
this one.
I'm having a good time trying to focus on this and learning about this. This is a good time. It's this tough bit of railroad to try and navigate.
So I'll pose a question to you, Dave.
Sure.
Suppose you don't have a layout in your basement. Suppose you have a 4x8 sheet of plywood. How could someone like that implement CTC dispatching practices in such a confined space?
Ooh.
It's a good question. One of the ways that I've always thought would be fun to enable that would be to use one switch on your railroad. If you have a siding or at one controlled point, maybe an interchange point, you can basically have an interlocking, just one, instead of the whole system. You can implement a CTC control for one switch at one interlocking. The logic is exactly the same. The thought process is the same. You still need detected blocks. You still need to be able to control the signal and assign that a name in the computer software. You still have to design a little panel here with a normal reverse button and be able to line signals in each direction. But there was a variety of small interlockings throughout New England and certainly New Jersey, upstate New York, where you had a tower with one switch. One of them was G Tower I think that was in Belvedere, New Jersey, between the Lehigh and Hudson River and the PRR Beldell main line.
Yeah.
Literally a tower with one switch. And granted, that's manual traffic control as opposed to centralized traffic control, but the principles are the same. And if you're really dealing in limited space, if you have a shelf layout or 4x8 or something along those lines, there's a variety of interesting model railroads that actually have an automatic interlocking to simulate what it would be like at a diamond, for example. So say your 4x8 railroad is a coal hauling railroad in Indiana, and it models the PRR. Well, at a bunch of places in Indiana, the B&O had a diamond with the PRR, or the Monon had a diamond. And you can actually put each railroad signals on each approach and then put in the block detection and make that work for your adaptation of your railroad. So I'm going to argue there's really, even on the smallest railroads, if there's an interest, this kind of idea can be put into effect, and it adds a tremendous amount of interest to what you're doing.
Hey, 611.
Okay, thank you. 611, go ahead.
I finally did it. You're about to hit a red board and be staring at two opposing trains.
Uh-oh.
Oh boy, roger that. 611 will be looking for a red board.
However, well done, dispatcher, to call that out before it happened. Excellent.
Let's have you shove back to East Whittier Yard and talk with their yardmaster and find out where you can go hide, and we'll get a meet through a dark siding.
Roger that. We'll call 611 to East Whittier.
Hey, East Whittier.
I don't know if you heard over the road channel. There's apparently a Mexican standoff at Whittier proper. Is there any way we can kind of shove back into your yard limits? Get out of the way.
Actually, one of the opposing trains you're staring at needs to go into that yard. So if you can hold the main, and if the yard is available to get an inbound, I think that may be the better move here. Fewer steps.
I mean, if you'll give me a couple minutes, I got to do some B&M style switching, and then the yard will be clear for you to do your moves.
All
right, roger that. Hold for one.
Well, that's a good segue here. We have a question from the stream chat. Coal Dust the Stranger, thinking of New England junction points, would be fun to incorporate ball signals as an aspect, I guess, in video games or model railroading, and that I guess that would be a cool thing to have.
Oh, absolutely. It's a great idea. Now, ball signals...
Rudy, stop dispatching yourself.
Ball signals were actually a type of manual block control in most cases. And they were also used as a train order signal. So that's one of the important distinctions between centralized traffic control and other forms of train control. Centralized traffic control did away with train orders, and so ball signals and CTC, to my knowledge, didn't have a whole lot of coincidence. It didn't happen all the time together. But certainly, depending on your prototype, especially in New England, there's lots of opportunity for stuff like ball signals or train order signals that would tell a crew that they've got orders to pick up at a certain office.
Or I guess depending on what your prototype is, all three.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
You could have what's that? And my New England friends here are gonna yell at me. The famous ball signal diamond crossing.
New Haven Junction.
Yeah, that where I believe one of those lines was CTC, one of those was timetable and train order, and that was their cross. So it's,
Yep, that's up in Whitefield. It's technically still in service.
Wow,
Oh,
awesome.
sorry, no, New Haven. Yeah, Whitefield.
there was a prototype for everything out there.
There we go.
All right,
240 to dispatch.
hello,
Just-
240.
Got some good news and some bad news. Good news. The crew up at Robinson's Gap agreed to help us out. Bad news is they blew the traction motors on their engine on the way down the hill.
Oh, come on.
I'm sorry, down the hill?
Is it
They say they
dead?
can't get the thing to move one way or the other. It'll power up, but it will not load.
Oh boy.
Wow.
Dispatch, this is call one.
You guys are hitting me with every problem in the book tonight, aren't you?
Only some of these are intentional.
Just wait
I'm
until we
getting
get
out of the
broken.
way.
Where's the maintenance train when you need it?
Boy, I wish I knew. Alright, 141, I saw you took your light there.
I'm excited about my new Rapido maintenance cars for my Conrail work train cars. That's I can't wait to get into that deeper. What beautiful models.
Dispatch, this is call one.
Hello, Cole 1.
Yeah, Yep, engineer for call one has to sign off for the night. I have AI take over for me.
Alright. Thank you, Squiggy. Have a good night. We'll let the Terminator take it from here.
You too. Take care.
Alright, and 141 is clear there. Okay. 240, do what you gotta do to make your train move.
Will do. Contacting power desk.
East Whittier to 611. The yard's all clear if you still need to do your moves.
Roger that, we're logging back in. Had a speed error.
Hey, Dave, going back to your answer about ball signals, would those have been used in the same manner as the stop boards or smash boards you sometimes saw at Diamonds?
Correct. Yep. It's and it really depends on the prototype application. It's a very good question because it illustrates the point again that railroads each kind of did their own thing in a lot of different ways. Certain junctions or interlockings had different kinds of signals on different routes, and they were used for different points. So a ball signal could be a manual block signal where basically every train got a pass into a certain piece of track, and the high ball would mean that manual block was clear and the train approaching wouldn't have to stop, as the operator would have already given them the permission to occupy that block. As soon as you start to run more than one train in a block, that's where stuff like manual block control and ball signal control for a manual block would be a little bit more restrictive. But there's absolutely a case to be made for ball signals as either train order signals or manual block signals, and they absolutely could be in conjunction with the CTC interlocking.
Dave, is there still a smashboard signal in Newark on the PATH system coming out of Newark Penn Station?
Not that I am aware of. They've done a lot of upgrades. They actually put in a whole new station at Harrison. They replaced their entire station there. And that's a good question because I remember for years there was.
Like up until 10 years ago, it was still in service.
Yes, and I have to. That's a very good question. I should really go take a look at that closely when I'm down there trying to work around this impending potential strike by the other locomotive engineers, which is adding a lot of color to this month this year. But it's neat that a lot of these signals that have lasted for so many years are still relevant. And here you go. This is a classic look at a signal board here, the CTC panel, where Casey's keeping track of the magnets with all the different trains. and how important it is to kind of stay current with where those labels are, because once those lights start to go on, you got 3 or 4 lights in a spot, and which is which, and that's all up to the dispatcher to track that, as you see Casey doing right now.
Yeah, I think my strategy here is I'm trying to keep everything on the bottom half of the board until something is taking a specific siding or staying on the main, so that way I can keep up with what's where that way.
I think that's a good choice.
That's
Yeah,
off
because
the board
otherwise
down
it
there.
gets confusing, as you noted.
Yeah, it's like what train did this train that I lost that has been sitting in the siding forever because everyone and their mother's in Whittier right now.
After 2101, stop signal west end of Barkers.
Stop west end of Barkers. Alright, let's see. So I got that there. This is going into the yard and going to bed, so I can put that down there. So that's tying up in the yard. Don't need to think about that anymore. And 611's on the main, and I'm gonna bring that to Whittier. 611.
Go ahead.
Hey, once you're done shoving, you can once 242 is in the clear, you can pull ahead and into Whittier, getting your lights now.
Roger that. We'll be needing the depot track.
Copy that. I saw that you disconnected. Do you need me to stop your train?
No, there should be air set. Server just closed connection for me, so
Roger.
relogging.
Alright. So that's coming into the yard. So I can start advancing that guy, and I will start advancing Rudy to there. Oh, but I can't give a code to there because there's a train in that block. So, do that like that.
240 to dispatch.
Hello, 240.
We're back underway.
Congratulations. I don't want to look at that. And we're gonna get you lights all the way through Alarka Junction. We'll figure out what's going on at Hemingway when you get there.
Alrighty, thank you, dispatch.
Complicated bit of railroad right now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it all came to a head about not quite where I thought it was going to happen. I thought I was going to have more of a problem here. This is a lot to juggle. It's fun. I like it. But whew. Oh, I didn't even realize it was dark outside in the game. Well, I hope everyone watching out there is having a good time, and if you have questions for Dave or anyone else in the call, just let us know in the chat. We're happy to answer questions. I think I'm doing an okay job of whatever this is.
I would agree. This is you got a busy railroad here, and
yeah.
It's you're still moving. You've managed to wait around a couple different tough spots, I should say, difficult spots, and on we go.
I'm having a good time with this. All right, there is nothing, and cause this is a branch here to Nantahala, busy branch, but a branch nonetheless. I am gonna preemptively get 470 all the way to the end of its run, so that way, as soon as 240 clears, I can get that passenger train highballing out of there. And that should fix me on that end of the railroad there. And they're making their way downhill. Don't know how far they are on their trip to Bryson. 33 is waiting there. You okay, Jay?
We're trying to move.
Okay, I saw you drop out
I
again.
think there's a. Oh, did it?
Yeah.
That's weird.
All right, I'll get your train stuff.
I guess the game doesn't like East Whittier.
Apparently not. So, Dave, any advice for
check.
everyone who wants to try dispatching with the CTC board in a video game at a model railroad? What's your advice for people?
Well, I think you're illustrating a lot of it right up front. Case is having a map available to yourself like this, whether that map is virtual or it's a piece of paper next to you or something you find online, whether it's part of the game or it's Google Maps or what have you. Knowing how the line diagram on the machine translates to real life is important for your crews. It's important that the crews know exactly who they're talking to. So are they calling a certain dispatcher? Are they calling an operator? Is there a formal procedure for that? And making sure that crews understand that they have to listen before you talk. That's one of the other difficult things about railroading is that you get multiple messages at once and things can add up in a hurry and end up causing a lot of problems. But it looks intimidating, I think, for first-time users, for people that aren't familiar with how trains are dispatched. They look at this and it's like hieroglyphics.
Yeah.
And what you got to remember is that it's just like running a railroad with no control system at all. It's permission and authority and lining switches. So once you boil it down to that, it's just a different cadence to do the same thing. So seeking some advice, certainly, the book that I put together is a good place to start with some advice on how to handle a system like this. But there's a ton of great YouTube content on it. There are a bunch of, V-scale videos along this line of different territories that people have put together. That stuff's available online. So having a couple tutorials and working with a little bit, even playing a little bit of train dispatcher or railroad, depending on what you enjoy doing, there's things you can do in your own time to kind of get familiar with how it works. And then once you start to do it formally as part of a larger operating session, either on an actual model railroad or in V-scale like this, you've got a couple different opportunities to be able to sort of offer yourself some training before you jump in and have to work it out with other people. But the other thing, and you've done it a couple times tonight, guys, this is supposed to be fun. So you got to be able to laugh a little bit. You got to relax and keep good notes, But this is a fairly complicated territory that's busy. There's other territories that aren't quite as intense, and those are probably better places to start. But bottom line is jump in there and take a chance. Really, it's a lot like other parts of life where it seems complicated until you jump into it and play with it, and sometimes you start to figure out, hey, I kind of get this. Okay. Here comes somebody.
Yeah, I realized that there was an AI local that needed a help getting somewhere since no one was running it, so I figured I'd go out and take it over and get it into the creamery.
Nice.
Oh, good luck.
470 to dispatch.
Hey, what's going on?
I don't know what I just saw go by, but looks like they're clear of the switch.
Roger, let's get you moving. You got lights all the way.
Thank you, dispatch. Have a good night.
Some of us here, Dave, we did a recreation of Borden's Creamery up in Walden.
Okay.
As close as you could probably get in a virtual sense.
Which is awesome.
Alright.
Hey, boss, you may want to start pumping up that gamma. It's getting a little dark on stream.
Yep. There we go. How's that look on stream now? Can we see what's going on?
Stand by. Much better.
Cool.
Also, 420 to dispatch.
420.
Or sorry, 240 to dispatch. Sorry.
Ow. Hello, 240.
We're here at Hemingway holding at a red.
There you go. We're gonna do the age-old model railroad thing. We're gonna pick it up and put it somewhere else.
050.
Remember, guys, it's not cheating.
Sometimes you got to do it.
All right, that's there. That's got to switch that industry and drop that head end boxcar off. So we'll just leave that there for now, and that means that, where are we? 1098 is off my board.
A question regarding the basics of CTC.
Sure.
Would it make sense for someone that's starting to learn about signaling and all that to start with something like ABS and train order to kind of understand the basics of it working before going on to like CTC and more advanced control?
It's a good question. I think one of the important points about main track versus dark track is that main track is track that's controlled by an operator or a dispatcher and designated as such in the timetable. And the logic of the signals in ABS, an automatic block signal system, is actually based on the same block detection that you would find in a CTC system or even a modern PTC railroad. Current-based block detection, which tells that's how you get your little white lights here, your red lights. That's how the system knows what's going on, and that logic is the same. So I don't know that you necessarily need to start with ABS per se. I would recommend starting with the basic idea of block detection and equipping your system so that your system can see where the trains are electronically, whether it's via a photocell, infrared, or current-based. And then you go from there to overlaying the logic for the signals themselves. So while ABS is a more simple system from the standpoint of control, because there is no control, the signaling and the blocking is very, very similar. The logic overlay for CTC, especially these days, between either the Chubb model railroad interface CMRI or the Java model railroad interface and JAMRI, or even straight through the LCC layout command and control modules that are available now. That logic is all the same. It's just a matter of whether it's controlled or automatic. So this is a panel here where you could press a button and make it an automatic block signal system. You can always move things back like that with some of these systems. So you really have options on how you want to go. My recommendation is to study the prototype you're looking at, and you can dive right into CTC if that's where you want to head.
Okay.
That's moving there. 33 is going to take the hole there. That's going to take the main all the way, and then I get Rudy following 611 the rest of the way. Well, we got into a sticky spot and we got out. By some miracle.
Now, by persistence and good work.
Palms got a little sweaty there for a bit, but we got through it.
You did it.
There's a good secret that works for I think dispatching that will get you out of a tight jam. Just don't talk to anyone until you come up with a solution, and then when they ask you, "What are we doing?" just don't tell them. just say follow your lights and hang up.
Spoken by experience, I can tell.
Is that when the old standby comes in?
That's when the old just dial tone comes in.
Ah, man.
Don't ever give a train crew any information that you're not 100% confident in. So usually it means don't tell them anything.
Don't be NS and stall a train on the hill and say, "Hey, can we borrow your helper?"
You mean exactly what I did with 240?
No, more so of there was a situation on the slope going towards Horseshoe Curve where the dispatcher had them hold at Brickyard and said, "Tie down the train."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember that. That was
there was a very famous audio recording of it, and the crews are basically saying, "Have you never seen this railroad?"
God.
Yeah, it was right in the middle of the PSR hysteria on a almost 2% grade with a 10,000-ton coal train. It was a scary thing to listen to because of just how far things had fallen as far as experience goes in that dispatcher's office.
It was after they moved the dispatcher too, wasn't it?
It was that's Harrisburg East. I forget the name of the actual guy that was doing it, but I thought it was just, you feel bad for people that are put in that situation. It's just, nothing good's going to come out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Or all the other crews buttoning on the radio going, "You sure about that?"
Man. And that's coming back to what we were talking about earlier with the EL Facebook page, and I guess Art's stories. I'm gonna have to look for that after stream. But where the dispatchers would have to go out every so often and ride one of the lines, and he has stories where if he was picking up a new trick at a new tower on territory that he was qualified in, he'd go out a day before he was signing on duty and ride the railroad and see what he was going to be touching and then coming back.
Correct. And that's a lot of the stuff, sadly, that has become a little more compromised with modern Class 1 railroading is there's less and less people in middle management that have actually been railroaders.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it's difficult to understand the scope of what you're dealing with unless you've actually been out there to see it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not impossible, but it's difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
Casey, am I allowing myself into the yard?
Yeah, you're gonna need to get your own switch into the yard.
Yeah. Okay.
Their third trick yard master didn't show up tonight. How are you doing out there, 611?
We are pulling the empty car off the house track.
Gotcha. You still have your spot to make?
That is correct.
Alright. You know how long you need?
5 to 10 minutes to shoot for.
Sure.
Well, that's a new one.
Ooh.
Oh, no.
It's under waypoint. Don't worry.
Okay. Okay. There we go. Now you'll let me learn. So one thing I noticed about game versus a real Switch is that sometimes you just get too close to something and you grab it by accident. Fighting that a little bit tonight. Okay. So we've got that guy's gonna keep moving, and then we can get Rudy around that. Look out the window briefly.
Awesome.
And what is that? That would be 141. All right. Well, we've got trains to move. Okay. Let's see. All right. So I think I've got that end of the railroad figured out. And I think I've got that end of the railroad figured out. So, outside of what we've talked about with the special things you can do with track warrants in CTC territory, and is there anything that CTC lets you do that people wouldn't, outside of like follow signals, that that you couldn't otherwise do on the railroad with other forms of dispatching, APB, ABS, timetable, train order?
Yeah, I mean, the primary goal of centralized traffic control was to allow more trains to use the same track without having to build a bunch of new track. So New York Central's main line from New York City to Chicago was 4 or 6 tracks the whole way when it was manual block control, tower to tower to tower to tower. And under CTC in the late 50s, early 60s, they were able to make almost all of it double track with some portions of triple track and a handful of controlled sidings on every territory. And so all of that extra maintenance was able to be cut out, and they were able to run more trains more efficiently because of the signals. So generally, track warrant control or a timetable, train order, railroad can both handle anywhere from up to 8, maybe at most 10 or 12 trains a day, depending on the territory. There's a lot of manual copying. There's a lot of brain power, and scheduling all that stuff manually and having fill out is difficult to do. Whereas on a CTC railroad single track, you could be running 25 to 30 trains a day, depending on the piece of territory.
We're kind of seeing in action right now.
That's correct.
And
that's correct.
I guess, Nick, I wish you were here, friend. But also, I think this is a perfect illustration of that, because when we did timetable and train order, it took Nick and I to dispatch the whole railroad together.
For sure. Yep.
All 40-something miles of it. And one of us was either writing paperwork and the other was handing it off to crews, or we were splitting the railroad in half. And that was kind of the only way we were able to manage it. It was... I don't think I could manage doing a railroad this busy alone with just paperwork.
There'd be a lot of waiting if you tried. You could do it, but there'd be a lot of people waiting.
What on earth is going past me right now? No wonder my game's lagging so bad. Good lord. Look at your window.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of lag out here. What?
Yeah, hey, T5, that hurts.
Oh my god. I am getting 1 frame per minute. Now I know why.
I think you're moving again there, buddy.
I think you can send those to Barry Scrapyard.
That's where they're heading.
One and done.
My gameplay experience has been compromised.
I can feel... Now I know why I'm crashing so much. Good grief.
I felt that arrive on this tile of the map.
Yeah, no kidding.
I'm hiding up in Alarka. I'm fine.
Rudy,
you're lucky.
I promise I'm gonna get you moving here soon.
You don't have to answer to me. You got to answer to everybody behind me.
No one.
I'm just the engineer.
Right, you're the all-car special.
You know.
Oh my god, it's not gonna fit him as a double over. No!
Stops. I can't even tell if I'm stopped because of the lag. Oh my goodness. I think I'm stopped.
Oh my god, Mike just felt my game smooth out. So maybe there is something to be said about trains in the physical space versus the virtual.
Well, they both have their advantages, and it's sometimes the real system can freeze up too, even on the actual prototype.
Yeah. All right, that's done. Reset all my signals this way.
I will make the joke, Casey. Now that you've mastered it in Railroader, now I should bring you into Run 8 and manage an entire subdivision.
Oh god, I have never had good luck with Run 8 as a multiplayer platform.
When you have the right people, it can be very fun. It is a completely different experience.
Rudy, I see you over there, and trust that... Rudy, I will give you lights. Messing up my board. Ding. Okay, that's moving there. That's moving there. I get big coal trains to the hole there. Office car special meets them there because that's the only spot they fit. All right. I think I got the hang of this. I don't know if I want to do this again for a while, but I think I got the hang of it. Maybe.
It is a lot. It's always a lot. That's one of the challenges with CTC is that whoever's dispatching is definitely going to have a heavy load, keeping everything coordinated.
Yeah, I think I jinxed myself. At the start of this, I thought to myself, like, okay, not that many trains out here right now. This isn't going to be too terrible. and they're all none of them are super long. That everything fits. My meets are gonna go smoothly, and yeah. I did that. I did this to myself. All right.
The test determined that was a lie.
Well, Jeremy Clarkson still could be worse.
And then it was.
01 is coming.
And then T5 arrived with
whatever that was.
An army of locomotives.
Yes.
I think something like that.
All right, that's going into the hole there. All right. I'm doing okay. I'm fine. Everything's fine, guys. We're fine. All right. Well, I think we'll
Dispatch, I got good news for you. This is 6:11. We're ready to head west.
Signal indication.
Roger that. Signal indication. Get out of here.
And then
We have no work at Ella today.
Sweet, I got you going all the way to Governor's Island. You'll meet the coal monstrosity there.
Roger that.
Good luck.
Meet at
God
Governor's.
bless. May the power of Christ
Destroyer
propel you.
frames.
Roger that. We'll give the word to the conductor.
Alright, and that's gonna go down there. That's gonna go up to there. Alright, and I think I'm gonna hop my camera over to Whittier. We'll watch whatever Rudy's office car special comes through, and I think we got enough of a hang of it that we can call it a night here.
They want to bump up your saturation a little bit more, or not saturation. You know what I mean?
That.
Just a hair.
That.
Yep, perfect.
Cool. It looks very.
I am
different on
going
my
to.
screen.
I'm going to double this over in the yard case, and I'm going to say my quick flip ain't happening right now.
I think you are probably correct on that front.
I'm going to bring this to the shop and service it and put it away.
Fair enough.
Your signal. West End, Whittier, main to main. 11
Greens. Well, if you stuck through for this long, a little bit of spoilers for the next couple of things coming up. We're going to be having a community night here sometime in the near future. Hopefully on the logging map. That's getting nearer to completion, so we can talk more about logging railroading.
The logs must flow.
The logs must flow. And also coming up as we march ever closer. And Rudy, I think we need to retitle the stream series that we've been doing together, talking about all these East Coast railroads. I think we're going to have to call it Railroad: The March Towards Conrail. I think that's going to become an app name. Next month, Rudy is rejoining us. We're going to be talking about the Delaware and Hudson, and the newly formed, all first of its kind, I believe, all digital Delaware and Hudson Historical Society. So we'll be talking about that next month. We're going to nail down a date here pretty soon. So tune in for that. It's the next in our series of Railroad: The March Towards Conrail. Cause that's what we're doing. We will eventually talk about Conrail as a railroad, but it's not going to be on this one. Maybe on the next one. We'll see. We've got a lot of East Coast railroads to go through before we can talk about Conrail, I guess. But we're getting there. And what do we got here? It is a big...
Live rating us with 2 viewers.
Hey,
Smoke in the sky.
You guys are joining right at the end. Sorry you're getting in here right at the last minute. And the office car special, Rudy with the big blue train. And it's biblically accurate. Almost.
That's not Thomas. Wait a minute.
I love it.
What could have been.
I know
you
some
and Bob are
people.
doing. Now we can get on.
Well, let's we're an officer of the railroad. Let's get on this train here and
Look at this.
get out of town. I'm assuming
All
there's
right.
lights up there.
Detector, milepost 594.
This is what everyone wants to do on their model railroad. Well, Dave, thank you for coming on tonight. Thank you everyone for hanging out and chat. I had a great time.
It's been a real pleasure.
This has been awesome. Looking forward to running into you at Amherst again next year if you're there.
Absolutely, I'll be there. We'll see how things come together as far as tables and stuff go this year, but I certainly will plan to be there with the boys, and looking forward to seeing everybody. This is an exciting part of the hobby that's grown, and it's an honor to be here, Casey. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Go buy Dave's book. It's fantastic. I really enjoy it. I'll have to bring my copy up to Amherst next year and have you sign it for me.
I'd be honored. No problem.
So, thank you.
Go check
all.
out Dave's layout as well.
Yeah, go check out Dave's Layouts Facebook page. There's a blog too, I think.
Yep, correct.
YouTube as well.
And a YouTube. Okay.
On YouTube and a Patreon channel for people that are interested in the backstory of it and the small projects and how it all comes together. But it's a pleasure to be able to share it with everyone, and just another great way for this great hobby to continue to grow.
Dave will send me some links and I'll put them in the description so that way you all can check out his wonderful content as well. But yeah, thanks for coming on. I'll see everyone on the next one, and have a wonderful night. Bye guys.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks again, Case. Take care.